Terms of Service Agreement. By accessing or using this website, you agree to the following terms and conditions described. If you do not agree to these terms, do not use this website. This is the Terms of Service, terms, TOS, that defines appropriate usage of the warframe.market website, the site or website, by its users, including those who create orders, listers, and those who initiate conversation with listers, contactors. 1. Account. An account is required to access some features of the site. Accounts have the following limitations by default: 100 orders, 50 contracts, 50 bids. These limitations can be removed by having an active paid subscription to the site's Patreon. A. The owner of a site account must be the sole owner of a Warframe account that meets trading requirements according to the trading FAQ on the Warframe website and does not violate the Warframe End User License Agreement or Terms of Use Agreement. B. The name of a site account must match the name of the owner's Warframe account as it appears in-game on the platform being used to play Warframe. If multiple platforms are regularly used to play Warframe, a site account must be created and verified for each unique in-game name used among those platforms. C. A site account may not be sold, traded, gifted, or otherwise transferred to anyone else. Any attempt to do so may result in a permanent suspension of the account. D. The customizable areas of an account profile may not be used to depict imagery that is obscene, indecent, politically charged, or otherwise offensive. E. Account profile descriptions that specify or imply behavior that violates these terms do not invalidate these terms and are not enforceable. F. Account profiles may not be used for advertising unrelated content or attempting to defame other users. G. Users may not create additional site accounts to circumvent site restrictions or evade an account suspension. Doing so will result in all related accounts being permanently suspended. Three. Contracts. Contracts indicate unveiled ribbons and adversaries that a lister intends to sell. A. Listers may only create contracts for ribbons or adversaries they own and are willing to sell at the specified selling or auction buyout price. Any prices or conditions present in the contract description are not enforceable. B. Only one contract per ribbon or adversary may be created. C. All properties of a contract must match the properties as they appear in-game. Ribbon attributes must match the values for the entered rank as they appear in the mod's console, not the ribbon cycling screen or arsenal. D. The rank for a ribbon contract must match the rank at which the lister intends to sell. E. A bidder of an auction is required to honor their bids if chosen as the winner, and their bid is no older than 7 days. F. Bidders may not bid on an auction with the sole intent of raising the current bid with no intent to buy. G. When creating an auction bid higher than any next highest bid made within the last 7 days, the new bid must be no less than either 5% or 100 platinum more, whichever is lower. 4. Activity status. The site allows for listers to set an activity status that indicates their current availability to trade. The status of a lister at the time of being contacted will be used to determine whether a violation of these terms has occurred. The site does not automatically change a user's status based on in-game activity. A. Online in-game indicates that the lister is currently logged into the game, able to use in-game chat, and able to complete a trade within 15 minutes of being contacted in-game. Listers are not required to respond to messages received on the site while set to this status, but they are required to respond to in-game messages, clearly indicating that the contactor found the lister through the site. If the lister finds they are unable to send or receive messages in-game, such as chat connection errors occurring, their status must be updated within 5 minutes and remain until in-game chat functionality is restored. B. Online indicates that the lister may or may not be in-game, but is able to respond to site messages and complete a trade within 1 hour of being contacted. Listers are not required to be in-game other than for performing the trade. C. Invisible indicates that the lister is unavailable or otherwise unable to trade within the allowed time. Listers are not required to respond to any messages or invites received in-game or on the site while set to this status. If a lister begins to receive many new trade request messages at once, this status should be used to prevent further new requests. But messages already received before the status change still require a response within the allowed time based on the previous status. 5. Trading. A. The site provides a generated message, copy/paste message, that should be copied into the game's chat as a whisper message. This copy/paste message must be used as is without modification at the start of contact and signifies the beginning of protection of both parties within these terms. Further messages may be used to attempt negotiation, such as asking about a different price, in which the lister may choose to accept, reject, or respond with a counteroffer. If the contactor chooses to negotiate, they may leave the protection of these terms and the right to report the lister, who will remain in protection unless they accept or respond with a counteroffer. The moderation team reserves the right to enforce the terms at their discretion based on evidence provided, even if negotiation is involved. If the provided copy/paste message cannot be used for reasons such as the in-game paste function not working or being unable to copy text on the platform used to play Warframe, a custom message may be used in its place as long as the price and item are correct, and the site is mentioned in either the contacting message or any subsequent message that is within 2 minutes afterward and before the lister responds. Interactions where the site is not mentioned at such a time are not covered by these terms. B. Listers must honor the price of their order or contract at the time of being contacted unless their status is set to invisible at the time of initial contact, or the listing is an obvious error such as entering price and quantity into the wrong fields, in which case the order or contact must be corrected within 5 minutes. C. Listers may not refuse to buy or sell a quantity at or lower than the total quantity and equal to a multiple of the minimum quantity per trade for the requested item, as shown on the site. If no minimum quantity per trade is specified for the item, the lister may not refuse any quantity at or lower than the total quantity. D. Listers and contactors may not require the other party to buy, sell, or trade additional items or perform additional tasks prior to trading. E. The lister and contactor must be the only users involved during a trade. F. Contactors who receive a trade invite, message response confirmation, or any other indication within 5 minutes of contacting the lister suggesting that the trade will be completed within the next 5 minutes are required to complete that trade with the lister. If the lister does not respond within that time or does not take the necessary action to complete the trade, or the trade is otherwise not completed within the applicable time limit based on the lister's status when contacted, the contactor must notify the lister that they are withdrawing from the trade before contacting another lister. G. Listers and contactors may not change prices or items mid-trade unless approved by the other party. Listers are still required to honor the original order when denying such proposals. H. Listers and contactors may not stop or refuse to communicate with the other party without a reasonable explanation. Refusing to communicate includes, but is not limited to, no longer responding to messages, using the ignore feature, disabling or repeatedly declining invites, and enabling do not disturb mode. Reasonable explanations include the other party spamming, harassing, or otherwise being uncivil. I. Contactors may not contact listers without an intent to trade. J. Listers and contactors may not engage in behavior such as name-calling, starting or escalating an argument, discriminating, threatening to report, harassing, or confronting after being reported or suspended. K. Listers and contactors must meet the mastery rank requirement of items being traded and have sufficient credits and, when applicable, tradable platinum at the time of contact. 6. Transactions. Transactions on a user's profile indicate orders that have been marked as bought or sold. Transactions must accurately reflect the traded item and its quantity and price. Any transactions deemed suspicious, such as those with a quantity or price significantly outside of the current average, may require proof in the form of a screenshot taken at trade completion. 7. Reputation. A user's reputation is based on the number of positive reviews submitted by other users. A. Positive reviews may not be used for reporting or justifying negative reputation. B. Users may not attempt to bribe or force other users to give a positive review. C. Users found to be artificially increasing their reputation, such as asking for positive reviews from other users without having already traded with them, will receive a permanent account suspension until such reviews are removed. D. Users may not leave positive reviews with content such as, but not limited to, self-promotion, links, or inappropriate material. 8. Reporting a lister or contactor who has an account on the site and is in violation of these terms may be reported using the report option found on the Reputation tab of their profile. A site account is required to submit a report using this method. Screenshots must be uploaded to a trusted image hosting website and provided as links in reports. The moderation team may refuse to open links at their own discretion in cases where they are unfamiliar with the website chosen. Provided links may not expire within a limited time window or contain any sort of restricted access limitations. Provided proof must include, where applicable, screenshots of in-game chat. Timestamps must be enabled in the game options. The full chat box must be visible, including top tabs, bottom input box, and side scroll bar. Screenshots must include the full conversation from the first message. Multiple screenshots may be provided if necessary. There must be a clear indication that the contactor found the lister through the site, such as using the copy/paste message before the lister's first response. For reports related to a lister having a status of online in-game, the in-game chat must show that multiple attempts were made to contact the lister and 15 minutes have passed since the first message with no response, or 5 minutes if the lister is offline. For reports related to a lister or contactor stopping communication without explanation, the in-game chat must show that multiple attempts were made to contact the other party and 10 minutes have passed since the first attempt with no response, or 5 minutes if the other party went offline. Screenshots of the site chat. For reports related to a lister having a status of online, the site chat must show that 1 hour has passed with no response. A single screenshot of the lister's profile showing their current status and relevant listings. The filters above the listings may be used to fit all necessary information into one screenshot if needed. For reports related to contracts, a link to at least one contract violating these terms. Any other relevant information that the reporting user may deem necessary. Screenshots or other content from third-party applications will not be accepted as proof unless accompanied by proof of relevant data from the site and / or in-game. Reports submitted using the in-game reporting system will not be seen by site staff. A. Public channels of any kind may not be used to submit reports unless endorsed by the moderation team. B. Reports may not be submitted with false, misleading, or malicious intent. C. A report based on an interaction that violates these terms may only be submitted by the lister or contactor involved in that interaction. 9. Violations. Failure to follow these terms may result in an account suspension, the duration of which depends on the number of prior infractions and severity. The moderation team reserves the right to take actions against accounts at their sole discretion for any reason and holds the final right of interpretation and enforcement of these terms. A. Site users will not be exempted from suspensions based on factors including, but not limited to, reputation, playtime, trade activity, usage of the site, mastery rank, Patreon status, and report submission history. B. Violations that lead to a longer account suspension include, but are not limited to, those involving a listing for a recent Prime Access release, a recently added tradable item, or a popular item affected by a game update or event that dramatically changes its availability, for example, items from in-game event stores or Barrow Katir. C. Violations that require action from the user, such as correcting a username, updating or removing a listing, or removing an inappropriate review, will result in a permanent account suspension until either the required action is taken or suspension removal is required for said action. D. Any attempts to evade a suspension or pose, impersonate, or imply being a site staff member will result in a permanent account suspension. 10. Appeals. For most violations, a one-time appeal may be requested, which may result in an account suspension being removed or its duration reduced at the discretion of the moderation team. A. No appeals may be requested for further violations, whether similar in nature or not, unless sufficient proof is provided by the suspended user to indicate that the report is invalid or factors outside of the user's control were involved. B. For account suspensions that require action to be taken before the suspension can be removed, appealing does not apply until said action is performed. C. Permanent suspensions due to repeated violations or violations including, but not limited to, suspension evasion or impersonation of site staff cannot be appealed. D. For account suspensions related to transactions deemed suspicious, an appeal cannot be made after the transactions in question are older than 90 days. 11. API. A. Requests may not be made at a rate faster than 3 per second for listings or 10 per minute for contracts. B. API data, unless for personal use or educational purposes, may only be used to provide additional features not available on the site. Site staff should be contacted prior to making applications using the API public. C. Applications that provide a copy/paste message must provide the message in the same format as seen on the site and include the application name. D. Applications using the API may be blocked at the discretion of the site developers. Application development using the API can be discussed in Discord. Site staff will not provide support for third-party applications and will not be held responsible for payments made to, actions performed by, or content provided by such applications or their developers.